Miscellaneous Guys Podcast number 2 for July 30th, 2020. We are here recording on a Thursday, and I've got a couple of friends with me here. AJ, Snouty.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
Falcon Punch, Joshua Villalta. Atolls Run, Joseph Turin.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
And currently eating dinner with his mic muted, sick of the one Jonathan Barola.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, welcome guys. How are you?
Doing well.
Hot.
Doing
hot.
Is it hot over there?
It's a hot.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Turn on your AC, dude.
I don't have an AC.
Oh, you
Yeah,
poor.
I'm still in the dark ages. and poor.
I gotta get you an AC. I think I'm gonna have to do that for you next summer.
Well, that'd be greatly appreciated if you actually do. Summers in my room are the worst. It is a sauna.
North LA is, of course, far more elevated than the rest of LA. So yes, you are definitely in the areas where it gets hotter than where we are.
All right, I know your birthday's sometime in, I want to say, December?
Nope, November.
November.
It is November. November.
If you're into
Wait, Joseph, don't say it, because I always get you and Yeye confused. I know Yeye is either the 5th or the 2nd, and you're the other one.
Of November or December?
Of November.
Yeah.
November.
No, both of you are November.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. Yep.
I bet.
So
I'm here, guys.
Hey, Jonathan, what's up? You missed your introduction. You want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Yo.
Cool. So how are you guys all doing tonight? What are you guys up to?
Great.
What have you guys been up to rather before this podcast?
Before this podcast, why let Josh start?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just catching up on some Laker action, which we won by 2. Whoop, whoop.
Nice.
And I was doing the same.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I was just lurking, and I managed to see Joe on, and then I joined in, and I said, "Well, I'm sorry for being intrusive."
It's a miracle.
Join the party.
Here.
Okay, Jonathan, do you have a transcript of this? Because that's really detailed.
No, we couldn't give it to him.
All right.
I don't think he's in the Discord, right?
He's not in the Discord chat. He's not. But we should get him in there.
Yeah, I'll get him in there.
Yeah. And Joseph, besides being hot, what have you been up to?
Just playing some WoW. I got done painting earlier, and now I'm on WoW. Wasting my life.
What are you painting?
Oh, I'm painting a model robot.
Oh,
it's really good.
Very nice. Well, you might want to send that my way, and
I will
may
once I get done.
Put that as the thumbnail or something. I don't know. Anyway,
just a little slide in, just a little pop in.
Wait,
Miscellaneous Guys Podcast.
What were you doing?
2. Oh, me. I was setting up this podcast and watching the Dodger game and putting my son to sleep.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
All three?
Oh, yeah.
Not simultaneously, no. I guess Ye's not going to join us tonight.
Ye is a little busy with his schoolwork, from my understanding.
That's also true. Yeah.
Sam?
I noticed he was playing a lot of schoolwork.
Hey, maybe he's doing his homework and playing video games at the same time.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Right, of course. It's research.
Samaculus and Mr. Sam Smegman did not contact me, but he may join us later on. We'll see.
I was informed by Mr. Smegman that he would not be here tonight.
Okay. Good to know. Good confirmation. Anyway, glad to hear you guys are good. I am doing very well. Thank you for asking, Josh. I'm very excited to talk some video games. So let's get right into it. What have you guys been playing?
Oh, let me start. Oh my God, I can't believe it, man. I am replaying Halo 2, and I have to say Halo 2. Within the Master Chief Collection, and I have to say, Andrew, that playing it with you has been a pleasure so far.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe how I don't remember a lot of it, even though when I played it when it first came out. And it's like I was telling you during our gameplay, it's like, wow, I don't remember this. And it's a lot of the moments that I'm playing, I'm just like, wow.
Right.
Wow.
That's part of, I'm probably getting ahead of myself here too because I'm getting into what I've been playing. But yeah, playing with you And as someone who's played these campaigns maybe once a year, and I mean all of them, all the mainline Halo games, it's really cool. Like I've always found them to be awesome and amazing. They're some of my favorites ever. But to take it in from someone's perspective who's basically going through it for the first time, really kind of cognitively, like I can't speak to maybe where you were mentally when you played them first, but the fact that you're taking it all in and it's blowing you away, it's super cool to hear you and even walk you through some of what you're seeing and like kind of connecting the tissue of the Halo story to the other ones that you do remember pieces of.
Right.
So that's super cool. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on Halo 2 Anniversary?
Well, so far it's amazing. I have a lot of questions as I'm playing the campaign, and it's great to have you playing with me because you know so much of the lore that when I ask you, you kind of connect the dots for me, in just the general in the general sense of the history of all the Halos, Reach, ODST, and all that stuff. And even when we talk about Infinite, when those questions arise, like when I asked you yesterday about the Zeta Halo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's great. It's very interesting, and it's getting me more and more excited for what's to come.
Nice,
And
man.
I
It's
and
it's been
just like
totally fun.
a little tangent, because I know how I feel about Halo. I know that Snouty has been trying to get me to play Gears, so I owe him that.
Yeah,
And in regards to playing the franchise, so once I'm done with Halo, my next project would be to jump into Gears, playing it with him, from 1 through
Yes.
5.
yeah. I think you're gonna be blown away by Gears if you give it a real shot. I think Gears of War is an excellent series as well.
We'll just leave Judgment out of it, just because I've
Judgment was
heard
actually
stuff.
a pretty good game.
Okay.
If you take out the kind of like the arcadey feel of like every what do you call it?
Like
End game.
three-starring every mission kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I've heard.
If you
I
just
personally
play
never
it
played it.
regularly.
I personally never
Yeah.
played it, but I did hear about that. So, but that's cool. I didn't know you played it,
Okay.
Joseph. That's good.
It's a really good game.
That's
I like that.
every single person I've heard that's played it has enjoyed it. So I don't know.
I enjoyed it as well.
Take that for what
Oh.
for
See,
what
there
you
you go.
will.
You know
Okay.
what? I have to say that oftentimes when it comes to certain games, a lot of the sort of like online opinions about it sort of
Yep.
tend to
Yep.
I don't know.
I know where you're
They
going with
bunch up
this.
and go
Tainted.
they bunch up and
Tainted
sort of
bad.
like yeah they just sort of go hard in one direction and that seems to be the only voice that's heard.
Yeah.
And since I'd never like engaged with online gaming in that point of my life, I just didn't know and I didn't expect
That's
anything. I
right.
had no expectations
Yep.
of the game.
Yep.
Just enjoyed
That's
it and
awesome.
played it and just thought it was different. Um, and I think that's sort of a lot of the times how I engage with games. It's still sort of my approach. I didn't really know much about Gears 5. I didn't follow anything about it. I didn't read any of the reviews. I didn't want to know anything. I just wanted to form my own
That's
opinion
awesome.
about it. And I
That's
did,
awesome.
and and I think that that's probably oftentimes a better approach.
Yeah. At least
Mm.
if you're really trying to remove all kind of like predetermined perspective or having that kind of framework deposited into your head, whether you like it or not. If you really want to formulate your purely, wholly untainted opinion, like I've told you guys before, once I decide I want to play a game, I ignore it because I want to do what AJ basically spoke about, like just going in with as little as possible, just to let everything about that game hit according to what the design was intended to be. So that's cool. Besides Halo 2, Josh, did you play anything else?
No, just Halo 2, like exclusively
Nice.
right now. So that's my main focus is just strictly Halo 2.
Cool. AJ, what have you been playing, man?
And I like Joshua. I think I've been mostly playing one game, so I'll say it. I am still playing Apex Legends, and I
Nice.
still enjoy it. I still enjoy that sort of challenge to be the last group standing. And some of the updates that they've done have been fun. There are still obviously issues, I think, but the game just feels better than it ever has been, to be honest. And outside of maybe some of the competition dying down and some players leaving the game, it's still very entertaining and still like gets me very emotional. And And when when it gets towards the end, it gets very intense, and it's just that it's a fantastic feeling to have. And there's great disappointment or great elation when you win
Yeah.
or when you lose,
Yep.
and it's just a fun game. But I'll say this: I also went back to Gears 4 and played its multiplayer, and
Nice.
man, that Gears 4 multiplayer is still just fantastic, and it's still responsive and beautiful, and there's still a good community, and it's still very challenging. I have enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. I spent like basically an entire Saturday this past weekend playing it,
Nice.
you
That
know,
sounds awesome.
and just yeah, from morning till night, just
That's
and
a
it's something that I
day.
haven't done
That's a day,
because
man.
yeah, when you as you get to be an older gamer, like you very often don't make time for games, and you don't set aside days for games
Or you're
or
basically
even
squeezing
nights.
blood out of a stone to get time.
Right,
You know.
exactly. You're just like for me, oftentimes it's like get home, eat dinner, and then play games for maybe an hour to two max.
Yep.
And that's sort of my daily routine. And then weekends, I sometimes find that I don't play at all. But
Right.
yeah, this Saturday was just all day Gears of War 4. Man, it's great. I love it. I like there's nothing funner sometimes than just getting lost in a good multiplayer that was fine tuned to a really good place over the stretch of its sort of entire run.
Yeah.
And it
And
was
still
great.
getting support, right? Like at least
Yeah,
even in balancing, right?
yeah, and amazingly still very much like a popular game.
Yeah.
Still lots of
Yes.
people join. I never have to wait too long. Not
Gears.
exactly the case in other Gears games, but yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah. It's cool because Gears kind of uh I don't know if this has anything to do with it does have something to do with the series in that you've got a really committed player base regardless of what game is out there because I like to look at top played games on Xbox Live and it's cool to see like Halo has kept Master Chief Collection, which is all of them, and then Halo 5 at there, and then you just see Gears of War, and sure enough, you've got Gears 4 and Gears 5 just up there and being played by a ton of people all the time. So that's always cool to see when you've got a community around a video game, whether it's big budget, because of course Gears of War is different than something like Bleeding Edge, which we'll get to. I think Jonathan has been playing that, and I'm not gonna take that away from him.
Yes.
But yeah, like that's super cool because you find your thing, and yeah, maybe it's not setting the world on fire like in Apex Legends where you've got 60 million or did Apex ever hit 100 million? I think it did, right? 100 million players.
Did yeah.
Yeah, so it's 100 million players or something like that. It's not on that level, but you definitely got your strong community there, and that, just you talking about that Saturday it gives me some satisfaction, man. And I didn't even join you.
Yeah, I
That's
actually
cool.
get to. I'm taking tomorrow off from work. Just
Ooh,
sort of randomly decided that
yeah,
I
those are
need
the
a day
best.
off.
Those are the
And I took it
best.
a week in advance. I'm like, I'm taking Friday off, boss. you know, and for tomorrow I've got Gears 5 lined up because I've been hearing good things about what they've done with Gears 5 multiplayer, and I think my friends know,
Yeah,
I was one of its biggest critics.
yeah.
I did not enjoy many of the changes, and I did not enjoy many of the problems it had well, especially in the beginning. And well, now I'm looking forward to spending some time with Gears 5 tomorrow.
Hey, well, looking forward to hear your thoughts next time. I I think Gears of War is great, like really, really great. And Apex
Nice.
Legends was fun too. I played that with you guys, all of you guys in here actually, except I think
Yeah,
Jonathan. Actually,
Jonathan.
yeah, Jonathan and Joshua. But with most of the
Yo.
guys, we played Apex, and that game is a well-made game, uh, just rock solid, and I enjoyed my time playing that thing for the time that I did, and even going back to it with you, AJ, and Rudy. Um, a few weeks back, or was it a month back, where we played a night or two together. Like that game is still what that game is, and it's solid as hell. It's just really great.
Yep.
Um, cool. Joseph, what have you been playing, man?
World of Warcraft and War Thunder seem to be my main games for this summer.
Oh, please elaborate on War Thunder. What's the state of that game?
It is it is just very, very good and very, very fun.
Now, are you playing on Xbox or PC? I remember you saying
PC.
This
there
is
was a
why every
difference.
Star Wars film.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
Sorry about that.
That's all good.
George Lucas has to pay the price. Go chop his head off.
Oh man. So sorry, Joe. You were saying War Thunder?
It's a very good arcadey and realistic game with there's a lot of depth to it.
That sounds like an oxymoron, right? Like as you say it, but I kind of understand what you're trying to say.
Like for instance,
Arcadey realistic.
obviously you could pick which one you want and you could jump into it, but like for the flight combat, for playing like simulator battles, which is like realistic mode and all that, where the physics are increased to be more realistic.
Oh, interesting.
Same
They
thing.
change the physics depending on
Yeah.
the kind of mode you're playing, huh?
Yeah, so the physics changed. Every aircraft, there's like 100 aircraft, act differently now. They don't turn as they do on arcade, so there's like another, like, you have to relearn the turning and all that, like the guns and all that. You have to learn a lot of new things because every plane is different.
I mean, at that
Every
point,
plane
you're
has-
learning two learning curves. Like you're basically dealing with two learning curves there.
Yeah, and and this is what always gets me. Like, it's not something you can just like jump into and have fun. You have to do like you have to prepare. You have to learn your plane out of the hundreds of planes that there are, and and you have to like develop tactics. I found myself like looking up real world tactics that they use to take down fighter bombers or bombers. Because if you don't know how to take them down and you just kind of go like guns blazing, you're gonna get killed really quick. And if you don't know like those weak spots on a bomber, then you're just gonna be like, it's just gonna be a sponge.
That's cool. I think the most fascinating thing to hear is the fact that there's dual physics where depending on the mode you've got that.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever heard of a game do that as far as physics is. Normally difficulty is scaled
hmm
by, okay, you die faster. Or particularly in a multiplayer game like that, like team hardcore or what have you, depending on the mode, is just you just drop faster, so it becomes more tactical. One health, like one life per round or what have you.
Yeah.
But that sounds cool.
Yeah, but this changes like
and
it's a whole new game.
And just to be clear, you played it on PC because the state of the console is the console.
Well, if you play with the controller, it's a lot harder because just the controls are weird, and you have to like fiddle around with the controls.
But the game is actually in good shape as far as its performance on console.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be better.
Okay.
Like any PC port to console. Well, it just plays better on the PC just because of like graphical and all that and FPS.
I do remember when you first played that game, it turned you off because of how crummy it ran, at least at launch, and then
Yeah.
you kind of refound it again on PC. Cool. What are you doing in World of Warcraft?
Oh, I am just chilling. I am just having fun, playing the game, playing the story, unlocking the allied races.
Are you-
It's like, just to get the achievement and say, hey, I've done it.
At what level of Shadowlands prep are you? Code Red?
I mean, there's really no prep for it.
Okay.
Not like something like
Like Destiny?
like the Burning Crusade or for
yeah,
Destiny.
got it. Yeah.
You just jump in nowadays and you just play and all that.
Yeah, they've certainly made that game, at least the main game. If you're not playing vanilla, that game is far more streamlined. Even though, I think people who've never played WoW would say, this is streamlined.
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, that's cool.
But they've made a lot of the MMO stuff more streamlined.
Not to take us off course here, but I think one thing I've always appreciated about Joe is that he plays such a wide variety of games and,
Yes.
and tends to like become quite good at almost all of them.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate the fact that he like really takes the time to learn the mechanics and then really takes the time to sort of explore the world and to and then when we ask him about that particular game, like he does a really good job of explaining what the fun of that game is, as opposed to sort of just repeating what the game does.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, man. It's pretty cool, and I love the fact that you just play so many different games. I wish I had that time to play as many games,
Definitely the
to
case.
and to be able to dedicate like myself to mastering them.
You just gotta sacrifice everything. Everything that you love has to go
For,
out.
for total transparency, the life scenarios for these two individuals is drastically different.
Yes. I'm just a college student. That's it.
Basically, yeah. But hey, man,
For right now, at
you
least.
roll you roll with what you got, right?
Yeah.
So
Live the
that's
dream,
cool.
my friend.
That's cool. Anything else, Joe?
No, but I am gonna get into Grounded with hopefully you guys next
Yeah,
week,
yeah,
because
grounded.
that game was
Yay.
really fun.
I may wait off to see just how they iterate on that thing, but I am very, very excited about that thing. Cool.
Yep. So that's what I've been playing.
All right, Jonathan, what
Ooh,
have you
CB's
been
here.
playing, man? He's not there.
Oh, he's gone. This
No,
is
okay,
a
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
there he
here,
is.
I'm here.
There he is.
And
What
I'm thinking, remind me of like
Oh.
when I was in high school and
Show
you
and
would have
tell.
to bring the
Show
presentation,
and tell,
and
man.
Oh.
Where's
I
your
didn't have anything.
PowerPoint? Where's
Where's your PowerPoint? And I'll
where's
just kill
your
time,
where's your three-faced cardboard cutout?
dude. I'm like, I don't know.
I remember we had to do that in college. In college, I was like, why are we doing this? Let's just get straight into learning. Why we gotta do all these weird social, things? I'm not here to be
It,
friends with you guys. I'm just here to learn.
it honestly depends on the professor at that point. Like
Yeah, it
it
depends on
really
the
does. Like at
professor.
the college level, dude, those guys run the show.
But it feels like it's also pushed by the facility, the college itself,
Mm,
for whatever arbitrary reason.
yeah. I
But yeah, just going back to Jonathan, what have you been playing?
I've
Tell
been
us.
playing, dude. I've just been playing Bleeding Edge. That's all I've been playing. Like nothing more than
Well,
like
you also
it's
been playing DayZ, right?
yeah, but that was just like for 2 days. Like 2 days, 2 days. That was just 2 days, like with a group of people I've met. But other than that, like I played Daisy for 2 days straight. All right,
Nice.
and we managed to make a little base, and it got raided.
All that hard work.
Yeah, it was 5 of us. We managed to get a little base going, and we had everything going. We would log in occasionally. Two of the guys that I was playing with were actually like very like familiar with the game.
Mhm.
So something happened that it was such a shit show just to try to pick my. In other words, that game is cool. Like I never played it, but I got invited to play, and I was like, it's on console, so I was like, all right, let me try it. It was fun. I had my fun. I see the experience, and it's cool. Overall, it's a good thing. But I played Daisy, but the main game I've just been like 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 you guys say fan girling over is Bleeding Edge
Nice,
a
man.
lot. A lot. I'm surprised how much I play that shit. It's kind of like, dude, stop playing it. Like, play another game, but I have fun.
That's
It's
really
And
just
what
a
did
fun
you say
game.
your
It's the fun game. That's all I say.
what
Fun.
did you say your rank was?
43
yeah.
worldwide.
So
That is very
43
good.
in the
Worldwide,
world.
man.
for context, like the leaderboards on Bleeding Edge were like a feature that was incoming for since launch, basically, as they added new characters and added new maps. And I guess when did they release the leaderboard, Jonathan?
Yesterday,
And your position worldwide is?
43.
That's still pretty good.
That's insane.
I think
That's insane.
that's just like a personal accomplishment.
I still tout to this day in Gears of War 1 on execution. I think, Joseph, I showed you this. You were my witness, and so was Ebe. I hit worldwide on execution Gears of War 1 543.
I remember that.
Yeah,
You were so
Fuck.
happy and proud.
worldwide. So
And
that's
that's our execution was like a very competitive
right, because you
mode,
had to go
too.
finish them. You couldn't
Yeah.
just shoot them
Yeah, it's
from
one
far
life,
away.
You have them crawling their way to
Yeah,
come up and just
but that's impressive.
bash them on the head with a
Jonathan.
Nasher.
Wow.
How's the state of
What?
that game? How's Bleeding
Wait,
Edge going?
it's improving. It's improving slowly. Like this update that just came in, the game was kind of stale. I'll be honest. Like there was this type of to sum it up, the healers were running the show. If you had two healers and a specific tank, That was the fucking the quote unquote, I don't like to use the word, but the meta.
The
And
meta.
it
Yeah.
just became a drawn out fucking boring game of you have the dolphin and these two healers. And that's it.
Yeah, I saw a
Like
lot of
it just
people using that.
and it was just it was cool. It was fun to run, but it kind of got stale because it's like, all right, what's gonna happen
There
now?
was
Oh,
there was no other
this
configuration that
same.
can go
Nope.
against it. Yeah.
You could run it, but it was the most drawn out, to sum it up, the tank had a life steal pool everyone can
Oh,
sit on and do damage on whoever you attack. You're life stealing,
Yeah.
that doesn't
and
sound
the
fun,
two
especially with a
healers
tank.
give AOE attack. I mean
Heals.
AOE damage and heals.
Yeah. I know was it Kulev? Is it his name?
Yes,
Kulev?
dude, that guy's a
Kulev.
fucking beast.
Kulev is one of the more popular ones along with Zero Cool. I
Yep.
don't really see a lot of people use Miko. Although she's really cool to use, I've used her a couple of times. It's kind of hard to at least it was hard to wrap my head around how to use her abilities there.
They 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 on the state of the game, man. Like I like it. Like they made it now. They nerfed. Okay, simplify it. They nerfed the healers in this patch to
That's good.
make up to bring in other characters and stop picking so much. They reduced the healing on a lot of healers, reduced the damage on a lot of healers, buffed up Makutu, the flagship little
Oh, the
Polynesian dude.
Polynesian guy.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, they buffed him. He was really not honestly in the state of the game the way before this patch. He was not worthy to take in. He was fun to take in. You could take him in, but there
I
was
remember
other
you
characters
mained
that
him
shined.
first, right?
Yes,
So
yeah,
you know a thing or
yeah.
two about him.
Yep. Dude, they made him a beast. Like he is the character you want to pick now. He does
Nice.
things that he didn't have.
We'll
In other
see.
words, he's good.
We'll see how this goes as the months go on, right? And people kind of
Yep.
determine more
But
about the nuanced composition.
they add they added that. They added okay, so they updated the game. They added custom queues, a couple skins, boards, a new character, day and
What
night map cycles.
when you say skins, do you mean like a whole new like skin, or is it just a color change?
A whole new skin
Okay,
with
cool.
That's cool.
a
Because
whole new
yeah,
skin.
before, they totally had skins, but it was just color changes
Yeah, I never
And
liked
something
emotes.
that.
that they had. But to be fair, and something that must be said about Bleeding Edge, zero microtransactions.
Yes,
That
zero
game,
Yeah.
Oh,
microtransactions.
nice.
that game
You know
is
I
just.
want him though.
Yeah, I know you want them, and I know why you want them, but I think it's worth saying that the support that game is getting, the developers are trying to do it on good faith about just saying, hey, you're just going to get all this for free. Because
Yeah.
all the updates, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, all the updates for Bleeding Edge are free, right?
Yes, so far.
Yeah.
So far, I really would want them to like give us like a microtransaction, like throw skins out here, throw this pack out. I don't know, give them some money so they can just put it back into the game if
I,
if
I
it's like
think
that, you know.
I think it's important to note as well that Bleeding Edge is a passion project. So like even if they did include microtransactions, I don't know if that would actually solve the problem of them putting more money in because I think it's only like 12 people or like
Hmm.
10, like there's a very small group at Ninja Theory working on this game. It's a passion project from the lead designer of it. Like this game was literally just her getting a ragtag team within the studio saying, "I just want to make a melee hero fighter." Uh,
Little did she know.
and sure
That's a
enough,
hard
like
thing to do.
yeah, it is, and they've done a good job, and it's found its audience more or less. It seems like, but I think that game is just going to be a slow burn as far as like all the content coming.
Uh,
But we'll see. We'll see. Who knows, man?
Guys, I'm gonna just end this section with a little brag. The highest I ever got on any game is Gears of War 4, and it was like 5,000. So
Hey,
5,000.
Oh, shit.
hey, look, Gears of War 4, that player base was huge, so that's really impressive. Because Gears of War 1, I remember I hit that rank like a month in, and granted, yes, Gears of War 1 sold very well and had a big player base. I don't think, if my memory serves me correct, Gears of War 1 is not the best-selling Gears, so I was kind of
Really?
in at the ground floor. Yeah, it wasn't. I think Gears 3 is the highest selling Gears.
Well, it says Gears 1 was on Oh, Cruise was on the Xbox 360, right?
It was well,
That's right.
so was Gears 3, but of course the
It
install
was on the early
base.
lifespan, right?
Yeah, the install base
Yeah,
on at Gears 3 for the 360 was far larger than it for Gears 1.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's 5,000. 5,000. Do you remember the exact number? Or?
It was just they didn't actually give you an exact number until you reach a certain point, and all I know is that
Oh,
if
that's
you're within a
right.
certain
That's
rank,
right.
you're
You're
like
right.
if you get this rank, you're in the top 5,000. If you get the rank above it, it's like you're in the top
That's right. You're
2,500.
you're absolutely right. Yes,
And
they did start doing that.
yeah, the difference, by the way, of playing between like the top 5,000 and the top
Yeah,
2,500
it's night and day.
feels like night and day
Yeah,
to
yes it
me, at
is.
least.
Yes it
I
is,
was just
man.
like, how are they always killing me? F this
Me,
game.
me and
Or the game's
Jonathan,
fault,
me and
not my
Jonathan
fault.
here were on a Gears 3 tear for a few months there. When I used to work nights, I don't know if you remember, Jonathan, when we were playing till like 4 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
I would basically get home like at 10 o'clock at night, and me and him would play till 4 or 5 in the morning, Gears 3. And dude, the people that, oh man, like the people you run into at that time, it's just,
The
it
night
is,
players, the
yo,
real.
dude, it's just, and they're just wanting to do scrims. They're just like, hey, let's get some scrims going. Like, oh
By
man,
the way,
yeah.
one of my favorite things to do in Gears 4 to this day is essentially piss off with a lot of the Mexican player base that I end up playing
Dude.
because they're sitting there and they're talking in Spanish and they're like, "Hey, you speak Spanish?" and I pretend I don't.
Oh, AJ, come on.
It's fun. I start yelling like "Go Mexico" and they get so excited.
Nice, nice.
They're like, "Yeah, this gringo's awesome."
See.
Me and Jonathan had a
Exactly.
similar circumstance, but except
Oh,
Jonathan
oh,
didn't treat that dude
pick
as
'em,
nicely.
pick 'em.
Yeah.
Cyclical, ¿por qué? Cyclical, ¿por qué? Like, I felt bad, bro.
Hey man, you were that good. People wanted to play with you, and you couldn't facilitate that all the time.
We were playing a game, so I'm sorry, I had to kick him. But
Oh man. All right. All
that
right. Cool. Well, that sounds all that stuff sounds fun.
But Andrew, what have you been playing?
Man,
yeah. What have you been playing?
I'm kind of all over the board a little bit. So definitely Halo 2 Legendary run with Falcon Joshua Vialta here. That's been super fun. Like I said earlier, just aside from me enjoying those runs because I do them almost every year for my own sake, this is more in prep for Halo Infinite, and also just listening to Joshua and just having him kind of walking alongside him as he's like seeing this stuff for the first time, like whether that be when they're in New Mombasa or assassinating the Prophet. It's just been great. But aside from that,
Assassinating the Prophet. That was so funny. Just
Get on his
smacking the
chair
crap
and
out of
whack
him.
him.
yeah,
Yeah.
just start punching right in the face.
Press B, or RB.
I've been playing Zelda 1 on the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console.
Mm.
I've picked that up again, and I've definitely been using the save function because those games back then you just had to play
Brutal,
in one
dude.
go.
Hmm.
But fortunately, through the Virtual Console on the Switch, you can create save points. So I've been using that, and I've basically gathered the second piece of the Triforce.
Oh wow.
So I think I've got like maybe 2 hours of playtime now in that game, and that
Hmm.
game is brutally difficult. That game is very, very difficult, but very fun. Just because I played Breath of the Wild for the first time ever this year, and I'm kind of all in on the
Love that
Zelda.
game.
I'm kind of all in on Zelda
Freaking
at this
love
point.
Zelda, dude.
I
So
never got why
Listen,
that was like so popular. I never got into Zelda.
I think
that makes two of us, Joe.
if you really want to get into Zelda, I can't speak for the others. I played Ocarina of Time back in the day on the N64, and I did enjoy it. But to be fair, not to piss the entire gaming world off here, I didn't understand what was the big deal of Ocarina of Time. But granted, I didn't
Dude,
finish it. I didn't finish
say
it.
that to the fan base. Don't
Well, that's why I
lynch you.
said I'm about to piss off like every single person who plays video games. But my point is, I didn't play a lot of them, and I did play Ocarina of Time, but not enough. But Breath of the Wild, man, oh my lord, that game is
I never heard you gripe about a Nintendo game so much.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Joseph here was there as I
You were like
finished
all
it.
over it, dude.
That game is incredible. But anyway, so playing
Speaking
Zelda
of
1.
Nintendo, sorry,
Oh,
dude.
it's okay.
Yeah, just have you guys heard of the? You had mentioned that there was a leak for
Oh,
a bunch of Nintendo games.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
All right.
Oh, what?
Anyway, but yeah, Zelda 1, and here's the curveball for all of y'all. I
Mhm.
started The Order 1886.
Oh,
Dude, go back to
Wow.
2000. Dude,
You
what?
need to
Like,
you
you know
need to
what?
stop playing that
Ah,
game and
dude.
then jump to something else, like something else in
Yeah,
your backlog.
yeah, man. You gotta. Might as well go play. I don't know, Paper. No, not
I,
Paper
I,
Mario.
I mean this like in a very like respectful way, but like,
Dude,
why?
So
what are you doing?
So right now I just finished Breath of the Wild basically off my backlog. I don't consider Zelda 1 in my backlog because it's something I just kind of picked up and played just to kind of fill in the back end of Zelda.
void.
Yeah, the Zelda lore. No, in fact I know there's not a lot of lore, if anything, in those games because they're the
Not
story.
in the original.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why it's going back to what you were saying about Ocarina of Time. That's really where you kind of explore where Nintendo, without really realizing it, kind of opened its universe up to the lore of it all and connecting the dots and what's not connected and what is.
Right.
And if you look at what they've talked about the timelines, oh, it's so fascinating. But anyways,
Yeah.
I think that's for another time, for another
So
segment
so yeah, Zelda
in regards to
1.
all of that.
My playing of Zelda 1 is really just pick up and play. I don't like I said, I don't consider that to be part of my backlog, but
Hmm.
because in the meantime as I'm playing Halo 2 with you and going through the Halo campaigns to get ready for Infinite, I do want to keep up with my backlog, at least tackling things that I have there. And I was
Hmm.
between playing Cuphead and 1886, and my wife is like, I want to play Cuphead with you, so that kind of removed that from
Like,
from the
okay.
table. And
I see. Okay.
so I started at Order 1886. I think I'm about 2 hours and a half into it,
Hmm.
and I can say that the beginning of that game is really weird and disjointed. I think they were going for a really cinematic thing that doesn't quite work. I think if you really want to kind of point to something that really works, where there's very much little control offered to the player, but they do a good job of setting up the entire game. And maybe I'm hitting the high mark here, but The Last of Us is a game that really does well with that setup without you having really control of the player other than maybe subtle movements, but it does a really good job of setting the tone and whatnot. And I think in Order 1886, the game starts with you in an interrogation. You're basically being waterboarded, or some degree of waterboarding, where you're basically being drowned, and you're being put in a cell, and then you come back out, and then they do that for a minute, where you kind of have to do quick time events to kind of survive the drowning and break free.
Time
And
event.
like I said, it goes on far too long. Like I feel like I was playing 45 minutes of that game and still kind of going through that setup.
Wow.
And it felt like it just didn't end. And there was some kind of walk and talk scenes that would follow that, so the pacing was really off because it took way too long to get into it. That said, getting into it, it feels all right. I remember that game getting a lot of trash for its gameplay.
Hmm.
And I can kind of see where people are coming from it, but it's not nearly as bad as I think people made it out to be.
Hmm.
So it's a cover shooter, and it's at first you're not really fighting the werewolves and the monsters
Yeah.
that you're tasked with. In fact, the beginning of the game sets up the story in that you're actually you're being charged with being a traitor or something from the order, and then it cuts to like the past. So it's one of those games where the beginning of the game is near the end of the
Ah,
game.
okay,
So
yeah.
anyway, I'm enjoying it kind of. I think I'll definitely finish it.
bro,
But
tell you the truth, that game is good.
you finished
I
it?
know why you're playing. No. You know who had it? Darklight.
Oh,
And
okay.
well, then again, he says all games are good, but I did eyeball it, and it did catch my attention. Like it's just the whole werewolf, like hunter, Castlevania, not Castlevania, but Van Helsing, right?
Yeah.
Feel like you're
Yeah.
kind of like all leather and
It's
like
it's
weird,
Victorian. It's
like
Victorian England.
the guns.
Yeah, and the guns are like steampunk, steam powered
Yeah,
and
it looks
whatnot.
cool.
It is. It
The
is.
concept looked really cool.
Well,
Trailer
even
looked really
even
cool.
even in execution, they do a pretty good job of setting the tone. And even I know that game came out shortly after the PS4's launch, but that game, at least in the interior environments, looks very good. Like there are video games even now that don't look as good as how that game does interior environments and lighting, but everything outside is just really like water washed,
And
like
that,
washed down.
and if I remember correctly, it's not a very long game either. I think
No,
they said
that's
that the gameplays are it's like a 10-hour game, maybe, if
yeah,
that.
if that, yeah.
That's still kind of a long game.
It's
No, dude.
I think
Well, yeah, it's a single player game though, right?
it's only single player, right?
Yeah, okay, then I guess yeah, it's.
So
I think it would be considered short.
they do some neat stuff with like freezing time and kind of like if you can think of what Red Dead Redemption does with its like that auto aim ability, kind of it's
Oh,
not quite
the
that
Deadeye
the
thing.
Deadeye. So there's some stuff in there that's kind of reminiscent of Deadeye that feels good. The movement feels weird, like maybe because I'm used to like the gameplay of Gears of War because it is a third person shooter. But then again, Gears of War is something else entirely than this,
Yeah.
as far as like what it does mechanically. But it's been fun to play, fun enough that I want to continue. So there's that. So anyway, that's what I've been doing.
Awesome.
1886. Wow, that is an old game.
Hey
Yeah,
man,
here.
my backlog.
What's
Yeah, man,
next on your
5 years ago.
backlog, dude?
My backlog has Fallout New Vegas in it, so I'll leave that. Oh no.
Wow.
Let me rephrase that. My backlog has Knights of the Old Republic 1 in it. So
Oh my God,
and I have that
dude.
game. I bought it. I bought a brand new copy off eBay. I paid the $35 because it was sealed to play that. Anyway, but yeah, that's what I've been playing. So all right, you guys good to get into the news?
Yeah,
Yes.
man.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
jump into it.
Play New Vegas. That's all I gotta say.
I want to.
It's a really good game.
Joseph here is the one that basically convinced me to buy it.
It was only $5.
Not only
And
that,
you haven't bought it.
I did buy it.
I mean, but you haven't bought it before. That's what I was
That's
saying.
right. I've never bought it before. Yeah. But if it makes
It's
you feel better,
unbelievable.
I also bought a physical copy because I do want physical copies of the games I play.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But anyway, news time.
News time.
Pew, 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 pew.
Pew, 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 pew,
Oh, this
pew,
is
pew,
guy.
pew.
This is
Oh,
all
I
on
did
you
see
guys.
that for the
Cuphead
PlayStation.
released on
I did see that.
PS4 2 days ago.
Oh,
this week.
really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty
Awesome.
big. That was a self-published game by MDHR, but it had some exclusivity deal through Xbox.
Yeah.
The history of that game is that apparently the Xbox did some business wheeling and dealing to put it on Switch, and that was one of those games that people just assumed, like, nowadays more so than before, exclusivity deals are kind of either pitch like they shout them in secrecy, or they're just kind of blatantly obvious. Like if you want a case of the latter, like you could look at the PlayStation 5 event and like games like Deathloop and Tokyo Ghostwire Tokyo and some of those things like
Timed exclusive.
Still angry about that.
yeah, like it's like, okay, this is gonna be 6 months to 12 months or whatever, and it's kind of just
Yeah.
clear cut. But with
That's
Cuphead, like, okay, yes, it was self-published, but it was always kind of implied that was just Xbox had that locked down, but it clearly was not. So PlayStation fans are getting that, and the other bit of news with Cuphead, DLC will launch simultaneously across all platforms that the game is available
Oh.
on. So that's really cool.
There hasn't been any DLC until.
No, they announced that
No.
DLC called The Last Course, where I think they're adding a teapot or something, because right now it's a Cuphead and it's a Mugman, and they're adding another character who I believe is a teapot, and they're adding more boss fights and more levels and
Oh,
stuff.
nice.
I want to say
That game is no joke, dude. It's pretty tough.
that game is very, very hard. Me and Auda started that game a few months back, and we were co-oping it, and we've only cleared the first island, and even then it's just been by the skin of our teeth. We haven't really dominated the game in any way, so
You
I-
still won't play Dark Souls. Huh.
It's a different thing, man.
Okay, it's a different
It's a
thing.
different thing. But granted, I
Okay.
will give Dark Souls the credit where it's due. But that game just doesn't jive with me. But anyway, but yeah, Cuphead on PS4, DLC coming on all platforms. Uh, I thought that was really cool news, at least for PlayStation fans who may not have access to Cuphead in other ways, because it is on PC as well.
Hmm.
So, but now it's on
Is it
now it's everywhere.
is it on PC through Game Pass?
I'm not sure if it's on Game Pass, but I know it's definitely on PC. Um,
Oh, okay.
so yeah. But anyway, the other set of news here is so there's been a lot of rumors and hearsay and talk about World of Warcraft coming to consoles. Particularly,
What?
those rumors kicked into high gear this week as the Brazilian rating board
Hmm.
rated Shadowlands, the new WoW expansion. Uh,
For
they
consoles.
rated it for Series X.
It's
Uh,
very specific too.
exactly, but here, get this. Jason, just to give credit here, Jason Inocencio from Polygon reached out to Blizzard, and Blizzard actually responded to him and reiterated that Blizzard has no plans to bring the game to consoles and that the rating in Brazil was an error, quote unquote.
Hmm.
This is also after controller support was found in the latest patch that went out for World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
and I think I think maybe there's no plans in the immediate future, but one's got to think that where there's smoke, there's fire, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you're already giving support to the controller or the gamepad. The next step is to just release it on console. Especially
Yeah,
on Xbox, it wouldn't be that hard, I imagine.
I think the
And I don't see why Blizzard couldn't release it. I mean, they've done similar things with was it Diablo 3 when they released it for both PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
right.
So
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question that I cannot answer, and I don't know if you guys will have an answer to. But
Hmm.
what? So to me, a game like WoW seems like a very hard or very difficult game to port
Yeah.
to a console. What would you say is possibly the most difficult game to that 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 could be the most difficult game to port into a console? What game would that be?
It would have to be something definitely old, because games nowadays have a lot of kind of connective tissue and like they're cut from the same cloth because a lot of them are built with the same engine. There's different optimization, of course. AJ, you're really savvy with PC, so you know that there's like optimization there that goes on, but of course there's always scaling to like lower end hardware. But definitely WoW fits the bill for what you're asking as far as which game would be like a nightmare to port. Uh,
I would also include Star Wars: The Old Republic because that's a game I would definitely want to jump back into. But for console
But
because
considering
I don't have a PC.
maybe I'm not sure if I got this right, but I think Star Wars: The Old Republic is running on Unreal Engine 3. So
Let
technically
me
speaking,
let me do a little quickie search.
cool. And while you do that, I'll say my piece on it.
So,
I think World of Warcraft they've already alluded to the fact that game would be a nightmare to port. Now, I think all this kind of points in the direction that they're at least maybe trying. Like there's maybe some kind of concentrated effort by certain individuals within Blizzard to make it happen, because that would be a huge deal. You know,
Hmm.
if you have, PlayStation already supports keyboard and mouse, Xbox supports keyboard and mouse. Like you could do that without gamepad support if you have to, and maybe add gamepad support later. There may be some kind of obstacles there, where some of the executives maybe at Blizzard are like, well, if you're going to do this, then you've got to make the gamepad work, even if you have mouse and keyboard enabled there. But who knows? But this has come up more often than you would suspect something like this to come up and not have some kind of validity to it.
Yeah,
I
I
think they're definitely like maybe like kind of testing the waters with. I think
And
once we get the official like gamepad um, support I think there would be more interest in it being in console.
Yeah, they're definitely going to look at the data, the input data on the PC side and say, okay,
Yeah.
how many people have actually plugged in a gamepad and played it? But they must know there's an interest on the console end
Oh yeah, definitely.
to play this game, even if it does require a separate subscription. Of course, there's heavily hinted rumors that Xbox Live Gold is going away, so that would make it
I heard about that.
that would make
What's up with that, dude?
we don't know.
That
That's why I didn't even include it in the news because that's basically all we know. what I
someone
just
else
what
told
I
me that
just said.
too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Star Wars: The Old Republic is running on Unreal Engine 3.
Yeah, my memory is still useful. But yeah,
Mm.
that game runs on Unreal Engine 3, and I would say that's easier to port to a console than WoW, which is WoW is running on a proprietary engine, and those are always the most difficult to port to different hardware architecture. But granted, maybe that's why it was rated for Series X only. I think some of the things in the Series X, maybe that's the other thing. Some of the solution in regards to the hard drive is definitely different, especially on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. They've kind of built that thing around just really high throughput for the loading of assets. Basically, just it went from a creek to just full blown like a dam with controls as far as how much assets are going. If you've seen like some of the gameplay for Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation 5 side or the Medium on the Xbox Series side, I think those are good examples of how some of that hardware is kind of using the ability to kind of just have things have worlds running simultaneously or being streamed simultaneously. That's really cool stuff. But who knows? As far as this goes with World of Warcraft, but
Mhm.
I'm fairly certain it's very difficult to port. And to answer your question, AJ, I think WoW is probably the answer. World of Warcraft is probably the answer to that question.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and they're using a modified engine from Warcraft 3.
Yeah, I believe it, man. I
I
believe
think
it.
it's at SC2 or something.
I mean, who's even heard of that, right? Like the
I
stand,
haven't.
the typical players nowadays is the Unity engine, Unreal Engine, and that's basically
That's
it,
really
right?
it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Square Enix has their own engine, I believe, when they made when they made
Final Fantasy 15.
Final Fantasy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of these companies make their own engine, but like
yeah,
this is like from Warcraft 3. What was this, like the late to early 2000s
yeah,
of an engine, and they're
yeah,
just building on it.
yeah. And that's the part that I think would throw a wrench in all this, where it's like, hey, this thing, if we take one single slab of rock from this corner, this whole thing falls apart. so, so anyway, but that's going to be really interesting to see. But I really hope they're able to pull it off. All right. Star Citizen.
Oh boy, here we
Oh
go.
god.
Who's heard of Star
E-
Citizen?
Every time I
Me?
hear of news of Star Citizen, it's usually bad.
It's like a
No,
game
I
in
know where you're coming from,
progress.
at it.
Like like the last big news I heard was that they were making the what was it? The
Squadron 42.
FPS. Yeah,
Squadron 42.
that
It's funny because that's what this news is about.
that and the whole from planet or from space to what do you call it, surface, like without loading or anything. You just like zoom in with the ship,
Like you're
and it's
actually
like
taking it through the atmosphere and then landing on
yeah,
the planet.
like that.
Yeah.
Like that's like the last
And that's
big
years
thing
ago.
I heard about it.
Like I
Yeah.
can tell you that was years ago too. So Star
But
Citizen,
sorry to cut you off. Do you know if that ever panned out as planned?
man, I think it did to certain degrees.
To a certain
Like
degree,
I
of
think it's
course.
hit and miss, and it's not every planet. I could be wrong. I remember joining a Star Citizen stream one time because I wanted to ask the dude, like, hey, do you feel like they're delivering on what they've said they are? Just I wanted to get it straight from a player's
Yeah.
perspective, right? And he couldn't give me a straight answer. Like he kind of just danced around it and talking
That's a
about how
man
much
who doesn't know himself.
right. Like he basically was kind of talking about the milestones they've hit, but not about whether they've hit the milestones they said as a roadmap to hit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So anyway, but that game nonetheless is something that I keep an eye on just because it is very ambitious. For
It
those
is
of
very,
you
very
that don't know,
ambitious.
Star Citizen is a crowdfunded PC game running on, I think at the time was proprietary engine, then it moved to Unreal. There was a lot of kind of
Mid
shimmying here,
development too.
and also it moved to Amazon's Lumberjack engine.
Really?
I think,
It
yeah.
it's currently running on Amazon Lumberjack, yes,
There
or
it is.
Lumberyard. I'm
What
sorry,
the
Amazon
heck?
Lumberyard.
Lumberyard. Thank you, Joshua, for looking that up. But yeah,
Yes, sir.
it's really interesting that that game has gone through what it's gone through. But anyway, the news of this though is regarding Star Citizen players. I would like to call them investors. This game is wholly crowdfunded.
Definitely investors.
It is completely crowdfunded. There is no publisher. This game is not getting any kind of corporate money. It's $360 million of just people, players wanting this game to, willing it into existence,
Mhm.
basically. Um,
Just throwing money at it.
Throw money at it. Throw money at
they
it.
want it to be real. They want it to have it happen. And I almost did. For full disclosure, I almost spent
Oh, really?
$300 on a ship.
Dude, Andrew.
Really?
Gross.
I almost. I
When?
hovered. This
I
was
never
like
heard
two
this
2 years
story.
ago. I hovered over that purchase button, but I'm glad I didn't. This was around the time I actually talked about with that streamer, where I got on board with that streamer to ask him questions. But anyway, CIG, which is the company that's developing Star Citizen, its players wrote a kind of open letter asking for transparency regarding Squadron 42, which is the add-on module that would include like FPS gameplay, or the
Uh-huh.
campaign rather, because I think I I'm 100% sure actually they added FPS combat to that game.
Yes.
That game has that in there. You could raid other people's ships, and all that's in there. But as far as the storyline, because they did record they did mocap with Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill it was supposed to be in that campaign as some kind of important character.
Really?
They have a lot of famous people that they did mocap. They bought the rights to their likeness. So like Mark Hamill's gonna look like Mark Hamill in that game, even just with a different name. But his voice acting is being used. His mocap is being used. So anyway, long story short, Squadron 42 is completely behind schedule, and
Is this where all the money went?
they have not. Yeah, that's the joke. But they have not kind of come out and said, why it's been late. I think at this point it's maybe 18 months to 24 months late. If you guys want to look that up, I'm almost 100% sure that it is significantly late.
This
Squadron
is late
42.
for for
Because
the
I believe
FPS
Squadron
release.
42 was supposed to come out in 2019, like early 2019, something like that. Um, but anyway, so that was the initial piece of the news that investors, the players themselves, just kind of put their foot down and said, no, you got to tell us what's going on with this thing.
Oh boy.
And CIG responded today. In fact, I updated my notes with this. Um, they responded to the elevated concerns with the roadmap, and get this, they have a roadmap for the roadmap.
What is even that?
So I'm glad you asked, Joseph, because I have the points here. I have the roadmap for the roadmap here. So here's the roadmap for the roadmap. They're going to give an explanation of the goals of our new roadmap and what to expect from it. That's point one. Point two, show a mock-up of the proposed new roadmap.
No.
Point three, share a work-in-progress version of the roadmap for one of the core teams. And the final point in their press briefing here, and then transition to this new roadmap.
This
Wow.
seems.
I mean, we get a lot of shady kind of PR talk in this industry, and as it is with all entertainment. But this sounds like, oh
Got
boy.
scammed.
I mean, I
This sounds
know.
like
I
the
wouldn't
BP
say
oil
scam.
spill,
Okay.
where it's like in that South Park episode where it's like, we're sorry,
Oh, we're sorry.
we're sorry.
I think this is worse. I mean, this reads like someone just even playing a joke. I know they're not, but this sounds like just Either
It sounds like
they
they don't know.
no, of course there's no doubt about that. But my point is this is written in such a way, and I wrote it down exactly as they put it on their release. So this is not
Here's
me. This is not me
Paraphrasing
paraphrasing. Exactly. This is me exactly reading it to you as they put it, and it's
verbatim.
I can't believe this.
here's how I would sum that up. I would sum that up as a famous Simpson line from Bart. I can't promise I'll try, but I'll try to try.
Yes, that is very good. That is a very good comparison there. For a game this like high profile and huge, and like I said, 360 million is something that maybe something like a game like The Last of Us 2 would probably cost, right? Like this is a huge budget, and this game has had people kind of
Over budget.
seeing it, looking at it like side-eyed and wondering like, is this vaporware? And of course, the people who bought into it are like, no, it's not vaporware. Look, I'm playing it. And even while they're playing it, sometimes you look at it and you're like, look, it still looks like vaporware. I don't know.
So just for in regards to the crowdsourcing, funding has exceeded over 300 million, and this was back in June of this year.
I think it's at
And,
360
and
right
so like a
now.
360 million dollars, you could have crowdsourced, Brie Larson to be Samus Aran for Metroid, and that would have been awesome. Like actually, I'm going off a tangent here just because I was
That
like
sounds like a very
crowdsourcing.
specific thing. That's what I was about to
Yeah,
say.
I
I
was
think you
like
want Brie
just because
Larson as Samus
I
Aran.
do really want that. I saw
What are
her
you
up
trying to
there.
say, Josh? What are you trying to
I
tell us
want
here?
people. I want the fans to reach out to Nintendo
Tell me how you
and be
really
like,
feel.
look at here, you.
Look at
You hire this Brie Larson person because she actually wants to play Samus Aran, and we need this in movies since you don't want to release, Metroid Prime 1, 2, and
Hey,
3 on the Switch.
this just occurred to me, and I'm totally just spitballing here, but hear me out. I'm a big fan of what like games like Max Payne did and Alan Wake did and Quantum Break did, and even games like The Last of Us where they take real actors and kind of use their likeness
hmm
with a different name. I think that's super
Oh,
cool. Hey man, you get
you just cut out.
Metroid Prime 4, and you get Brie Larson in there to play in her likeness. You have her play Samus Aran in that video
That
game.
would be so cool.
That would be cool.
That'd be dope.
That would be really
That'd be
cool.
dope.
But just throwing
But
that
Sorry,
out
but I digress.
there. But anyway, I can't honestly I can't fathom how I have to imagine that the developers at Star Citizen have done enough work to really have those people kind of really involved as far as the players. I feel bad for the players, but they don't feel bad for themselves, so it's kind of hard to kind of go in there. I don't play Star Citizen, and I've really kept almost just this kind of eye on it, where I kind of just want to see if it pays off. And I think a lot of us are in that boat where everybody's just
I
kind of looking at Star Citizen and see if it crashes or burns and or lands. Um, but yeah, that's
I feel like a lot of the player base is just like too invested into it for it to
I
just
feel so.
die.
it's like they're past the point of no return, right? They're like, no,
Yeah.
we're all in. We're going.
Like I've already
Except
spent $1
like
million on
you,
this.
you said it
Might
yourself.
as well keep throwing money at it.
Yeah,
Like
like you said it yourself. Like for one ship, it was $300, and I know that's a cheap. That's
that's
considered a
one of the
cheap
lower
ship.
tier ships. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some ships go up to
Yes,
$10,000.
there's absolutely
That is freaking crazy.
I think it's a carrier or something that you can buy for 10
Yeah.
grand and that's your ticket in. Um, but yeah,
You
that's
better make me a lieutenant in the game.
yeah.
Wait, what? Damn. You can
Yeah.
buy ships. Wow.
Yes, and of
Real life
course,
money.
and of course those ships are, you know, they're better. They have better
The
shields.
USS Vialta or some crap. I'm gonna
But
spend $10,000 on the
but the
damn
thing
ship.
is, like the game is still in development. That's the crazy thing.
It's in perpetual development. You know,
Yeah,
that thing
and they're
is just
charging that much for a ship
right.
that's, quote unquote being tested still.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Oh my
subscribe
god.
to the Star Citizen YouTube, and I see how many times they do like the features. They do a lot of features
Oh.
about what they're working on, and I feel like maybe there's some confusion there as to like, hey, this is a feature piece that's basically PR, and this is actual behind the scenes development because they talk, every single one of those videos that they kind of put out talking about the game's development and where they are at different points of features and the HUD and the FPS combat and the physics and whatnot.
Yep.
It really does feel like more PR than kind of letting the people behind the scenes, because it feels like they're just kind of bouncing back and forth about what to actually execute on in the game itself. But man, that's I wanted to read this on the podcast because I felt like it was so absurd. Like
That's
this
Well-
is a new level of absurdity, and man, I don't know what to make of it, and I felt like it was something that you guys can kind of talk to me about
What-
too. Like,
Did you
this-
see what
This sounds
the,
just as absurd as it seems to me, right?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think at this point, it's fair to say that is their business. Their business model is perpetual,
Perpetual development.
perpetually
Perpetual
be,
development.
yeah. I mean, there's just like that's how that they get their money. That's how they're gonna continue to get their money, and they don't have to finish the game in a sense. Like in a way, I mean, as long as they continue to give a fair amount of updates for that community, and that community has a taste for
If they
what they're
find
doing,
satisfaction in it, yeah. If it's
Yeah,
satisfactory enough,
and that'll be that,
Yeah.
and whether or not they get exactly what they want, they may never need to give them that, as
Yeah.
long as because that is their business model. It's been this successful. Why change it?
yeah,
And that's one of the trouble. That's one of the problems I've had with a lot of Kickstarter games.
yeah.
And why I've chosen not to like essentially contribute, because
Very
I
few
feel
come
like
through.
very few come true, and then on top of that, it's sort of like rewarding hard work that hasn't been done yet, so that there's a possibility to excuse bad work. Like
There's only one
so-
game that I actually crowdfunded, and that was the spiritual successor to Mega Man,
Oh, Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to
You guys
you.
are
Well, Star Citizen, I guess we'll keep an eye on it and see where it goes.
Like we have
but
been for the past
honestly, in all earnestness,
couple years.
Yeah, I will say, all the garbage aside with that game that surrounds that game, if you just paid attention to that game a little bit, that is one cool idea they've got over
It
there.
was a very cool idea.
Yeah, but it's nothing more than that maybe. Again, I don't want to speak about it too much because I've never played it, and it seems like the people who do play it, like AJ said, there's just enough in there to keep them engaged and invested in it, both in time and money. So it is what it is. But like I said, I wanted to read this because I felt like it needs exposure about just so that people see just how absurd some of this is surrounding this game. I mean, this is something that like a 12-year-old would kind of write on a piece of paper to kind of excuse themselves from doing homework before actually playing video games or something.
I remember I was gonna sign up for the game, and I just as soon as I saw like you have to buy this and the price, and I think it was at the time I don't think it was 300. This might have been maybe I don't know when the game was made.
Was it
but I think
around
might-
$100?
It was like around $100,
Yeah,
and I just
yes.
remember walking in. And do you remember the where Grandpa Simpson
Yeah.
sort of walks in
Abraham
and walks
sees
right
Bart
back
at
out?
the burlesque bar and walks right out.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
exactly like the way it was like. Okay, well, I'll see myself out.
No kidding.
Yeah,
I was really, I hovered over that purchase button on that $300 ship, and I'm like, I know I'm buying this in good faith, but even then,
That's a lot of
I
money,
couldn't
too.
do it. No, forget about the money. It wasn't the money. It was like, I smelled the corpse.
That is a lot of money, though.
I smelled the corpse. It is. But the money wasn't the reason why I didn't.
That's
click.
half a console, dude.
It's probably gonna be a Lockhart, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. But
yeah, I have a
that's-
hard time convincing myself to pay $60 for a brand new game,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
to date, it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So I don't see why I would pay a single penny more for a game that's not even completed or
It's modular. It's modular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're talking about
It-
upgrading the price too.
Yeah.
piecemeal gaming is just not something that I'm going to be interested in general.
There's right ways to go about it, but if they're charging you in piecemeal for those modules and it's egregious, I think that's predatory.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right.
Mm.
Next bit of news. We just got done with PlayStation. PlayStation had of course, their July event that revealed the console, They revealed some of their exclusives, both first party and some of the third party money hats they did. And then of course Xbox did the same thing last week on Thursday. Of course, our first podcast was all about those games that were revealed there. But lo and behold, here we are moving into August, and of course, because we don't have prices for these consoles, there's a lot of kind of heavy hinting that we're about to get another major, semi-major event for Xbox, and one state of play from PlayStation in August that will reveal more exclusives for both sides, each one doing it, and of course the price. So of course, as you guys, if you guys have been following this to in any kind of capacity, you know that they're in a stare down.
Yeah, they're in a stare. They've
there's
always been in a stare down.
Well, not always. I think this one really stands out, just because there's been the fact that we're approaching August and don't have a price for these things that come out in September, October, or November. I think this is crazy. But at the same time, it's because they know how 2013 played out.
COVID.
That's
COVID.
probably part of it, but I seriously think that both of the PlayStation and Xbox are coming into this generation of hardware, both from a position of strength. There's really none of them are really faltering the way Xbox did in 2013, and none of them are faltering in the way that PlayStation did in 2006. You know what I mean? There's not this blunder of a thing that people are kind of just jumping from one platform to another. Both of these platforms, and even Nintendo, they're all doing really well, and none of them are really doing huge blundering mistakes leading into their hardware release. So it's interesting that they've decided to kind of make price, which is wise, right? I mean, price is the hill to die on, and where they're going on. And this is all of course coming with the peripheral information that we have about PlayStation hardware, the bill of material being far more costly than the Series X for whatever reason. Some people say, hey, the form factor was part of the reason, which is why Xbox went with the tower, the monolith, and PlayStation was trying to cram that hardware into a traditional form factor. But whatever the reason may be, like, of course, we're about to get prices, and it sounds like we're about to get events. We're going to get one event from Xbox, one event for PlayStation. PlayStation is rumored to be announcing more exclusives, like I said. The next game from Sony Santa Monica might be there. Of course,
God of War, baby.
Makers of God of War, that's right. And then what I've heard on the Xbox side is the Initiative. Their announcement was held back, actually, from the July event. This is another case of just reactionary like things going on between these two, where as soon as Xbox's July 23rd event was rumored to have a lot of new games, PlayStation came out and kind of just put the word out that, hey, we haven't showed everything, so we're going to have something in August. So they were trying to sandwich the Xbox event. To then, of course, which Xbox responded that, hey, we're not going to have everything. So sure enough, what was it originally probably going to be intended to be a grand reveal of what the Initiative is working on, which is that huge quote-unquote Quad A developer in Santa Monica that Xbox basically put down there to kind of siphon talent from other developers there. That game was supposed to be apparently at that July event, because July's event was supposed to be Xbox's like just here's everything in the chamber kind of thing, and then I guess that stuff got pulled back because of the game they're playing. But yeah, August event for both of these two.
So what game that has the developer made? Not Santa Monica, but
The Initiative.
the one you were just the Initiative.
They're a developer that is unproven really as a whole. This is a whole new developer basically put together. But the thing that has got people looking at them is because a lot of Naughty Dog, Sony Santa Monica, and Rockstar North and BioWare, like high profile employees from those studios, have gone to the Initiative.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
It
is unproven, but that's what people are waiting on as far as the Xbox side of things go.
Give me Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah. Oh man.
Banjo-Kazooie.
For the love of God, I would love if if Double Fine, now owned by Microsoft, would tackle Banjo-Kazooie. Like, can you imagine if Tim Schafer developed Banjo-Kazooie? That would be just nuts.
If there was a new Banjo Kazooie, I think it would actually get my wife to take video games back up.
Nice.
Really?
Is she a Banjo fan?
Yeah, she loves that sort of stuff, and
Nice.
in particular Banjo Kazooie. You know when what was it? When was it that they released all those like 30 games?
Ukulele.
It was
Oh,
like
Oh,
rare
the
replay.
rare replay.
Rare Replay. There you go. And like she was like, I mean, we downloaded almost every one of those games, and she wanted me to play through every single one of them.
Nice.
You know, because she just loves that stuff, and it's like very much a nostalgic thing with her.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like how it looks like we're not done. It looks like both PS5 and Series X have some games up their sleeves here, as well as the
Ah,
Let's
price.
see.
I love that essentially failure has brought out the best in Xbox,
Xbox.
and has really upped the competition and has made like I love this stare down. It's like who's gonna blink first, and I don't really care who does, but I just love that they're waiting this long. They're just like,
Yeah.
let's see what
It
you
is
got. No,
fun.
let's see what you got.
It is fun, yeah. And
No, I'm not having fun because I want to throw my money down already. It's like it's just burning in my pocket. As you, Andrew, how many times I say, "Oh, I want to buy this game," and you're like, "No, dude, you only have so much money. Don't spend it on stuff on dumb
yeah, like
stuff.
hey,
Hold out for your
you
console."
got one shot at this. Don't blow some of that cash
Ex-
now. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm just like, I wanna.
$5 Street Fighter movie.
Hey man,
I
just
know,
drop
right?
a 20.
Should I buy $5? Street
Drop a
Fighter's on
20.
sale. Should I buy it?
Should I impulse buy all these things for $5 each?
Yes, of course. You should always.
I'm glad that Joshua is actually being like consumer smart now, because I remember the story that he went out and bought. I think it was a PlayStation just to play one particular game, and then he sold it
No,
as soon
dude.
as. Was it the
It was
Xbox?
Xbox. It was McQuack was playing Halo 4 on launch. He bought it, and I walk into his
That's
room and I'm
right.
seeing him like the first 10 minutes of the game. He's playing the game, and I'm just like, and this is after I've sold my. This is after I've sold my 360 to my cousin, to Felipe. I'm just like, dude, call GameStop and find out how much a brand new 360 is.
That's
I
fun.
can buy this game.
That is super fun.
He
Oh,
went out and
man.
bought it, played it, and then went back and sold it.
And then sold it, yeah.
Oh man, but anyway, exciting things up ahead, and I want to put for the record, and I think Joseph, you're my witness. As soon as Phil Spencer went on Podcast Unlocked, which is IGN's Xbox podcast, and talked about him having the support of Satya Nadella, which is of course the CEO at Microsoft,
Hmm.
to keep quote unquote Xbox agile in price.
Oh,
I am almost 100% convinced the Series X is going to be $399. And I want
That'd be
I want
really-
to formally put that down on record because
From your lips,
yeah.
Andrew, from your lips.
Careful what you say.
repeat it for the,
No
the people
way.
listening.
I think the Series X is going to be $399, and they're gonna eat a huge amount of cost off of it to undercut PS5. That's just my opinion. I feel like
Cheap
if
controls.
this thing was going to be $499, which is what everyone anticipates it to be, you don't talk about agility and price. I just don't. Think
I don't
so.
know. I
But
think that could
That's
still be
that's how much
considered
I have
agile.
saved. That's how much I have saved right now. It's $500 because that's my anticipation
Yeah,
price point
I'll say
for
everybody-
both consoles.
everybody believes that to be the case. Yeah, with apparently the PS5 being slightly more expensive. But then again, PlayStation. The last thing that came out from a reputable source was Bloomberg's article about within PlayStation there is a debate, or at least there was a debate back around May about, hey, we want this to make money. We don't want to lose money on every console sold. So there was that
Like
one
they did on
camp.
the PS4.
Yeah, there was one camp saying, no, we're going to make money off this thing, so it's going to be priced higher than $499. And there was another camp that's well within, like, hey, you're crazy if you think we're going to be in good optics if we put it at above $499. So
Mhm.
we don't know how that played out, of course. That was around the time Sean Layden left, and I think PlayStation Europe kind of took over the reins of PlayStation operations globally, I believe. But who knows? Who knows what
If
all this looks like? But like I said, I just wanted to get it out there as far as me, my hunch, my suspicion. I think Series X is going to be $399.
if this
That would
was
be sexy.
The Price is Right, I'd undercut you and I'd say it's gonna be $3.98, but it is not The Price is Right. I I think but I will sort of undercut you in the other way. I think it's gonna be like 450. I just think like the hardware seems to be so impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know that a company can get away with losing money on every console sold and sell that to its investors.
Yeah.
Um,
But if you're
it's
if
a
you're not,
difficult world.
think about it this way, and we're gonna get into inside baseball here. Think about it this way: if Xbox has been priming themselves as a service-based company, or at least Microsoft has, and Xbox is moving in that direction, because remember, everybody has to remember this, and I cannot believe no one has picked up on this or even mentioned it or talked about it. Starting September,
Mm-hmm.
because they're bundling xCloud with Game Pass, you will never have to buy a piece of hardware to play an Xbox game ever again. I don't
It's true.
understand how this is not being discussed more widely.
COVID.
Like,
I think it's because we don't believe it just yet.
I guess so,
Like
but
too
they
many gamers are.
they've already.
I still like ownership, and even you like
I
ownership.
do.
That's why you buy the
I
hard
do,
copy of the
absolutely.
games.
And I'm not talking
And
for myself, of course, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like, I just see that. I think the reason we're not seeing people really talk about this is because we don't really believe it yet. I know I don't fully believe it yet. Like I know that that's sort of what they're moving into, and it feels like you're right, but there's a part of me that's still in disbelief about that being the future. And don't get me
Right.
wrong, I understand. And there's also not only is it not a part of me that's in disbelief of it, there's a part of me that actually actively worries about that being the future
Yeah, and
because
you're not alone in that.
I've been a PC guy forever, and there was always this fear in the back of my mind that at some point PC desktops would become essentially
Terminals.
just a
Terminals. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so not and then like essentially the cost of a PC would jump, which by the way it actually has in my opinion. Like it's
But now,
jumped
yeah.
it's jumped because now the cost of essentially like a a top of the line sort of CPU is over $1,000. You can spend $2,000. You can
Right.
spend a ton, a shirt ton of money
Yeah.
on a PC,
Yep.
and essentially like not necessarily have even the best PC that's going to last you for, as long as like they used to.
Yeah.
You could in the past you could have bought a PC, bought it top of the line, bought it at the right, you know, essentially period of time where it could last you 5 years without it feeling like an obsolete machine. Now that's not the case. I think that it's dropped dramatically. Now essentially any
You
two to
have
three years
you have a
max.
you have a 12-month span to enjoy that top end thing.
But even if it's not like even if the top end ends at 12 months, you still have another 12 months where it's like still really top,
Relative,
really
like
high
relative for the
end. It's
high
still
end. Yeah.
it's not top end, but it's high end. And then
Yeah.
the next 12 months after that, it's like okay, this is still a really good PC, you know. And as a matter of fact, it wasn't longer than 2 years ago where I helped my brother like upgrade his PC, and it's like hey, this PC really still gets the job done,
Yeah.
But then there's a like with the right like essentially GPU, it's like hey, this still gets the job done,
Right.
and really is actually kind of a beast, it's impressive,
Right.
Whereas now it's like oh dude, now like literally 6 months later, it's like well that thing's obsolete now, you know,
Yeah.
and so that seems to be the case, and like that's the fear here, where I see like essentially like consoles essentially will become like this just very unique enthusiast sort of product that becomes very
I mean,
expensive.
I don't want to say it, but it kind of is, right? Like relative to the population and relative to the growth that the industry wants to see. Like if you think about PlayStation and Xbox talking about and of course not just them, but Tencent and other players that are kind of lurking in the background looking to kind of get in. And even Google Stadia, who've actually quoted the number, these guys are talking about, hey, we want to grow it to a 2 billion player market, 2 billion people playing video games in our ecosystem. They're not just talking about how many, what the market is now. They're trying to grow their platform to that number, which is why we're in where we are now. So going back to my point, like if Xbox's focus is like, okay, here's the console for those that want it, and we're gonna do it right because the Series X definitely is that. But also, we're going to just make the price of entry be a measly $15 a month to play all these games on your phone, your tablet, or your PC, because they've even said xCloud is coming to PC. And even with the news that the Xbox One X and all digital edition are being discontinued, but not the default Xbox One S, they're setting this thing up to be like, how many fixed points are out there for people to just download xCloud and run a game? Like the whole promise of like, hey, your console is going to be forward compatible. The only way that's possible is not through the hardware that's already there, right? Like Halo Infinite may run natively to some degree on an Xbox One, but definitely like whatever they do to iterate on Halo Infinite as a platform moving forward, and other games of course too, like that stuff's
Gonna
gonna
be
run
cloud based.
it's gonna run in the cloud, and that's how you make that console, relevant. It's a piece of kit that can't run the software natively, but it'll definitely be an access point for someone with a subscription to then play whatever game is in that subscription, and I think this is I think it's a turning point. I think it's a huge turning point, and I think the Xbox just ate Stadia's lunch in a lot of ways, right? Like I was always someone who said, hey, stop poking fun at Stadia, because once they do the YouTube thing, they're going to take over user base. Like they're going to go out there and be able to tout that they have the biggest gaming platform ever. Because of course the whole promise of Stadia is that someone's watching a video on YouTube of a video game, which everyone does, and they're just gonna have, how you have the skip now or skip ad button on the bottom right. They're gonna have a play now button, like play this right now, like take control of this right now, and that's the promise of Stadia. But Xbox just saying, hey, we're gonna bundle xCloud into Game Pass. They're basically giving you games and access to the games anywhere for $15 a month, and that's already built out, right? Like that's on iOS. The xCloud app is going to be coming there soon. It's already on Android, and it's coming to PC. And you could see them putting it on an Xbox One to make that console relative to a certain degree, relevant rather. It's just crazy. It's just all.
I don't. Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, except for the one thing that I have a holdout of hope, which is that you say that essentially it is sort of, an enthusiast, piece, right? Like,
relative
the one
to like the number they want to hit, yeah.
right, but at the end of the day, the reason it isn't is because, like I look at the modern cell phones, top of the line cell phones, and they're running upwards of $1,000, $1,200, and we're talking about consoles costing you to be top of the line consoles, right?
Yeah.
Costing you $500 or less, or in your mind even $400.
Yeah.
If as long as like as long as the price of a console remains cheap relative to other like equipment out there, it's really just a perception issue. So in other words, we think of a console as being expensive when it really isn't. When you think of what the console achieves,
I don't
you know,
think,
Yeah.
I don't think it's expensive, but what you're alluding to is the average Joe, right?
but I'm saying it's like if the average Joe thinks it's expensive, but rather because the perception is there, not necessarily because it actually is. In this case, it's just a matter of saying like, hey, it's a perception issue. The console is actually relatively inexpensive for what it can achieve to do for you, And then not just that, like we used to think of a console as being sort of an investment for 5 to 7 years, and now we're starting to see that there are like generations within generations. I think at some point it's plausible, not entirely possible, but plausible that we could see essentially a new version of a new console every year being released, and because it's like, hey, we've found these improvements in the last year, we found these improvements in the last year. There are literally GPU cards that are released every like 6 months that are an improvement upon previous versions that cost just as much or more than the
Right.
previous versions, and people don't blink an eye.
But
It's really just a matter of perception.
I think the perception is warranted to a certain degree just because of the utility purpose of a phone, though. Like everybody having a pocket computer is one thing, but gaming is still largely seen as a kind of peripheral luxury. And lowering the barrier of entry as far as the cost is concerned to just a measly $15 a month, then all of a sudden you have people who like Netflix. You had people that probably didn't go to the movies nearly as often, but everyone has $10 in their pocket every month to
Yeah.
spare for like thousands of films. Doing that for gaming is absolutely going to at least on paper, like I it's going to explode the industry. Whoever, regardless of whoever does it first or takes market share, like if you totally remove the barrier of entry, even if it's only a perception problem, but as we've seen with Xbox, once you have a bad perception or an optics of a thing, it's hard to get rid of that. But again,
Netflix.
there's similarities in what you're saying, but I think that comparing it to a phone probably is good in a relative to hardware comparison. But
Okay.
as far as like the utility though, this is why there's that huge gap in how people see a cell phone and paying $1,200 for it and spending $500 on a console to play video games.
I don't disagree. I'll say this though, and you guys may not like this, but Netflix changed the game. I think we can all agree with
Yes,
that, and I think that
It
was
yes,
did.
essentially what you're saying.
that's exactly what I'm
Game
saying.
Pass can also has the potential to also change the game. Game Pass has the potential to be that next leap in gaming, right? But the issue is that at least to date, there has been no Netflix film, no original Netflix film that has been of the quality of what's out there. My concern for gaming and my concern for Game Pass in general is
I
that the
see where you're
quality
going.
of games will be essentially the Netflix
Yeah.
quality of movies, where the movies are fine. I just saw the what is it, the Old Guard with Charlize Theron.
Oh, it's an
You
okay
know,
movie.
it's a fine movie. It's not a great
Yeah.
movie. It's not a. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a. Is it a good movie? It's hard. Like at this point, I'm going to reserve judgment. I might want to need to see it again before I judge it. But I'm leaning towards not really. You know, it's a fine movie. It's an acceptable movie. Why is that the case? Because it was free and it was on Netflix. And so will games be that next thing? It's like essentially, are we going to get a bunch of games that are just fine, just acceptable, not great? And will the old will the sort of the model, like right now we're having the Tenet is having problem even being released because of COVID, right?
Right.
Like, is will we ever see movies on a scale where they're spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to produce something of that level and that quality? Probably not, because there is no theater version of essentially a video game, or what is the theater version is the console. Consoles are theaters, and if theaters are going away, I will definitely weep. In other
Yeah.
words, consoles ditto.
I don't think consoles are going to go away. I think the market can dictate that for sure, but I don't think it'll go away because there's still plenty of people who want the native hardware. But that said, keep in mind that people that subscribe to Netflix, yeah, they do for the Netflix original stuff, for sure. But there's definitely a library there of top films that comes in and out, right? Like
Yeah.
take The Witcher 3, for example, or Red Dead Redemption 2. Those are two, if you want to kind of compare it to cinema, those are Oscar-winning, Oscar, nominee level, but in the video game world, and they're on Game Pass right now. So in the sense that you have that add-on there, like people may not be coming to Xbox Game Pass for, like, let's say Halo Infinite if it's bad or whatever, but they may be coming for the Cyberpunk 2077 when it goes on that service. They may be going for Elder Scrolls 6. You know what I mean?
This is
So
this
so
is true.
so there's that aspect of it that I think it must be kind of propped up and shown, because then that way you can see the whole picture. You can see the whole pitch. And
One
having that for a subscription on a monthly, cycle, and you have it so that you've basically got what do you call it? Um, without hardware. Like you don't need any hardware to play that. I think this is where we're gonna find out how many people really want to play video games,
I think
and
I
not
you
just
know
Candy Crush.
I enjoy that you find the positive in most things, because I'm not that way. I tend to look at the negative a lot of the time and think of the negatives. And
Sure.
one of the things that you like when you tell me, it's like, yeah, there are going to be right now. There are how many big streaming game services are there? You know, right now, not really. But there's Stadia. There's going to be maybe a PlayStation version and an Xbox version. There are
There
three.
is PS
But
Now,
what's going
yeah.
to happen eventually is what's happening right now. There used to be Netflix, and they used to have just about every movie. But now there's Netflix, there's
Yes.
HBO
Yes.
Go, or
Yeah.
whatever it's called,
Yes.
HBO Now, I guess, Disney Plus, there's Prime Video. I have all of these services, and I'm paying for all these services, and actually, I'm in a way spending more for these services than I ever really did paying cable,
Right.
which used to be essentially the primary source of these films. So at the end of the day, there's limited content as much as there are obviously thousands and thousands of movies. There's a huge library of movies for different groups, but essentially, Warner launched HBO now, and Disney's launched
Yeah.
their stream. There you have Netflix competing, you have Prime Video competing, you have all of these different like streamers competing. You literally have. I've been watching a lot of Tubi recently because it's free and has like a decent like library as well.
Yeah.
So like there are all these different competitors, and they're all going to compete with each other to essentially grab what little there is by comparison. So what's going to happen eventually is you're going to have essentially Game Pass, which is going to have actually a few more original titles and fewer of the I don't think it'll have. It's not a library that's going to go from, let's say, it's going to grow to 1,000. It's going to be a library that's going to have maybe 100 originals and like 50 different, possibly 50 different
Yeah.
other things, which at the end of the day are essentially the lowest quality of this
I
that's available out there, because that's essentially what's happened with Netflix.
Yeah.
You don't get all of the best movies. You get like one or two good movies here or
I
there, or one or two of the best movies.
I think
But then you're
because. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, well, ending that like, but then that's it. Essentially, it's like then it's essentially Netflix originals.
Right. I think that the dynamic, the differences in video games and them being interactive, I also think that may kind of shield this industry from kind of having that exclusivity through service, because there's nothing stopping from The Witcher 3 being on PS Now, for example, right? Like Xbox didn't say, "Hey, this will be on Game Pass and you can't put it over there." Like this is an infrastructural thing as far as we know. So I think maybe because developers, like outside of the platform holders, developers want their game on as many places as possible, and that's a fact, right?
Yeah.
So the money that would have to be paid to them to put something exclusively, even within a period of time. Look at the way exclusives that aren't first party work today. Like how much money do you think Sony paid Bethesda Publishing to put Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo exclusively on PS5 for a few months? Like how much money do you think that was? It's I'll tell you, it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's for just remedial exclusivity. Like that's not true exclusivity. That like me who has the backlog that I have and who I predominantly play on Xbox, I'm gonna wait that out like nothing. Like the day is gonna come and go where Deathloop it releases on Series X, and I probably won't be ready to play it. You know what I mean?
You
So,
may
so
not even notice.
exactly. So I think that's something to think about. But you're right. You make good points that you may have to ultimately pay for more than one sub. But I think the consolidation has already happened even in the gaming space. What happened to EA Play? What happened to the Ubisoft launcher where Ubisoft games were only available there and only EA games were only available on EA Play? Like it got to the point where they were not sustainable. And now this year, 2020, you see Ubisoft and EA, which are two of the largest publishers of video games in the world, kind of just step back and say, nope,
That's a
we're going to put them
that's
all
a
on Steam and
temporary
we're putting
issue.
it. Yeah, maybe, yeah. But
The reason that's a temporary sorry, dude, like the reason that's a temporary issue is because those libraries were too small. when
For
their
sure.
libraries grow big enough, and I'm not saying it's going to happen next year or the year after, when their libraries grow big enough that they can essentially be self-sustaining, where they'll have enough of something to say, hey, we deserve our own platform, and rather than essentially giving it away to Game Pass or giving it away to, you know, PlayStation Pass or
Yeah.
whatever their version of it will be, you know, that's that's essentially what's going to happen. Is that it's they're gonna take it back, because there was a time when like all Stars shows were on Netflix. There was a time when uh, like a lot of the Showtime shows were on Netflix and the HBO shows were on Netflix.
Yeah.
That time is ended because
Yeah.
those places have their own streamers now.
Right.
You can get a Stars streamer and get the original shows that they have. Why? Because they get a lot of movies and they make a lot of their own content, enough so that it's sustainable for them.
Right.
And so that point will come eventually for EA, or at least it will come back, I should say.
Right.
And that point will come back for Ubisoft. It'll come for all the other major publishers that have enough of a catalog or library that they'll be able to be enticing to, you know, a specific group of fans that's small, that's large enough, despite it being smaller than, say, like the pie that's available now. It's large enough that it'll sustain that particular, you know, service. And that's my, well, anyway, that's my concern.
Right.
You know, of course, a lot of this is sort of down the road stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. We're projecting a lot here as far as
I
what's coming.
I feel like, yeah, that may be a possible route where things do get like that, but I feel like with streaming and with how Game Pass and PSN now works, is what was it? There's a lot more competitive. There's a more competitive in the sense that there's more companies that already have a lot more like shows and movies that they want to start their own streaming service, like Netflix, Showtime, and Stars, and all that. But with gaming, like Andrew said, like they want their games to be on
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Anything. Yeah.
So there's always going to be like a rotation, and there's already a big kickback from gamers with these streaming services like EA, what was it, Plus or whatever, that Epic Games, like they showed that they don't want this kind of stuff.
Or
They
don't
don't
have
want.
the
So-
infrastructure that Google and Microsoft have,
Yeah.
which is why
So-
like PlayStation cited and basically are going to use Azure cloud for the PlayStation Now, which is funny as hell.
So the counter argument to that is that it's true. You know, publishers or game makers want their game to be available everywhere. But the more of a thing you have, the less the value of that thing actually is. And I wish Yeye were here because he could explain it in economic terms.
Yeah.
But the
I know what
fact of
you're
the matter is that essentially it happened on Netflix. It happened on all of the other streamers. If you make a movie available, they want that movie to be available for rent everywhere. But if you make it available for rent everywhere, the value of that rental goes down. If it's only available on one particular service, the value of that rental goes up because
Right.
that's the only place you can get it. So
Right.
you can charge more for it. And
Right.
guess what? Sometimes you make more doing that than you do by essentially putting it everywhere, which is why you do get timed exclusives or other types of exclusives from different groups. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, we just want to be here. Why? Well, because they're paying us more for it.
Yeah.
That's the reason that there will be that competition. So long as that there continues to be competition and the communists don't take over, there's going to be that sort of situation where in the near future, well, I say near, but it could be 5 years, it could be 10. There will be enough competition where there will be a dilution of what you can get overall in any one particular place.
All right, I think this is
I'm-
where we should cut it off
I am.
and
Yeah.
continue
I am
on
absolutely
to our
calling
last
an
topic.
audible. I was gonna say let's. That's great
That was a
inside
very
baseball.
long
That was a great
conversation.
discussion, but we're gonna push on here. Final news story is a ton of Nintendo games.
You just want to get into the Nintendo games, Shaw.
Well, this is the last point that I had on the news for today. Tons of Nintendo games have had their source codes leaked.
Ooh.
Included among them Star Fox 1 and 2, Link's Awakening DX, which is the Nintendo DX, I think, version. Yoshi's Island, the original Mario Kart.
It was the Game Boy Color, I believe, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
F-Zero, the original, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, Mario 64, and Ocarina of Time are among them. That's definitely not the entire list. Um, but the source code for
In the
all these
voice of Scar, oh goody.
F-Zero was
this
such a good game.
this
Yeah.
absolutely is a buffet for the emulator enthusiasts out there who've been dying to replicate this. But then again, making the source code available kind of it's a dead giveaway for Nintendo to flag it and be able to bring legal action to anyone that uses it, right? So it's kind of like it's great that it's cool for some people that this happened, but it's also
Yeah.
like, oh, bummer, we can't touch any of this.
Yeah,
But
like when I saw the
does that
news.
really ever stop anybody though?
it does, especially now.
Yeah,
Especially
because
now.
the cease and desist orders that you
Yeah,
can get, and then
that
like
stuff, as soon as it's
legal stuff. They're you don't want to play with that, man.
right. The
Like
thing
I'm a
is,
young boy, I can't, I
yeah,
would not do well in jail.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah. There's definitely
Send
that.
all cease and desist letters to Snouty Pig.
But this is really cool because aside from the potential for emulation or even getting this to run even better than it has on other emulators that have been doing this forever now, because
Like
you can definitely, all these games I've listed, you can definitely find a way. There's a way, if you really want it, there's a way to play these games on PC.
for me, when I saw the news, I was kind of like meh. I mean, it's cool, but also like, why even bother now at this point?
Yeah.
I'm still hoping that Nintendo will eventually, if they ever do, put all of their entire library on the Nintendo Switch, because I think that's what they should be doing going forward. Just have their console be backwards compatible with the entire library, make it into their own version of an emulator, kind of like what they did with the Nintendo Classic Mini and the Super Nintendo Classic as well. Of course, not all of the games were on it, but up to 30 games for the Super Nintendo Classic. I modded mine just because I wanted different games that they had on there. Um, Not that I still have my Super Nintendo Classic just because I got rid of it, but
Yeah.
it's just like you should be able to, and I'm not talking when I say you, I'm referring to Nintendo.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, dudes, come on, like get your shit together and put these freaking games, because your fans want them to be able to play the nostalgia and all that. Because a lot of us, I guess I'm speaking for myself. I grew up playing the Super Nintendo, and having AG not tell me the secret how to get the flute in Mario Bros. 3. And then like things like that where it's like, hey, how did you get the flute? It's like, well, it's a secret. I ain't gonna tell you. And I'm like, why can't you tell me? Like, I want to know. Anyways,
Because you have to earn it.
I know, and I finally figured it out, and it was great. But
There you
it's like that.
go.
It's like I want to be able to play these games just for the sake of reliving kind of my childhood. It's like, oh my god, I remember
They're
when
good
I
games
played.
though. Like, even aside from
Yeah,
nostalgia, they don't just serve nostalgic purposes. Like, those games still play well enough. Like, they hold up. Like,
yeah.
Mario 1 still holds up enough that you can play it and not feel like this is trash.
Hmm.
Guys,
True.
if you want to play those games and essentially eschew the potential liability, just back in the days, we used to do this thing where we left our houses and actually went to places. And like,
Arcades.
yeah, there
Yeah.
are arcades, and I guess also there's this place in Los Angeles. It's Chinatown, and there's a swap meet there. And in that swap meet,
Really?
they'd sell certain types of
Things that
uh,
connect to the TV that you can
things
play.
that connect to TV.
Thousand
And
games
Yeah,
they
thousand
happen to
Oh
games.
have
god.
on
almost
this
every
Raspberry
single
Pi.
game that has existed exactly,
Yeah,
and it's just wonderful.
Yeah. Like I
I
said,
actually,
there
I did.
man.
are methods to play all these games if you really want it. But Josh, you make a good point, and it's something that everyone that has even remotely cared about Nintendo has always said. Nintendo need to just get their head out of their butts and just do the thing. Put your entire library, which is arguably the most impressive library in gaming, on your current device, whatever that is. Like, let
Hmm.
people's purchases go forward. Don't have them have to buy it, or in worst case scenario, like we are doing now, if you have a Nintendo whatever account, online account, where you're technically you're renting access to play Zelda 1. Like, I don't own Zelda 1, and if I did own Zelda 1 through the virtual console, that purchase would have been negated because they've already shut down some of that stuff where it's like, hey, you better download it because you're just not going to be able to re-download this. It's amazing to me that Nintendo still gets away with it, but their games are so good that I think people just look the other way. At least the people who love those games just look the other way, like, okay, whatever. But boy, do they get away with one here. Like, in this area, in this arena, what Nintendo gets away with is very, very specific to the people who love Nintendo. And I get it, but boy, it's amazing. It's amazing that they get away with it. Just
No, the one thing that they'll never get away with is the one time where I borrowed, quote unquote, bunny ears borrowed my cousin AJ's Legend of Zelda NES copy, and my mom found out that I took it without permission, and I got the beating of my life for it.
So this is all Nintendo's fault.
It's all Nintendo's fault because they made me
cartridge
want the game. The cartridge, I believe, was gold.
It's $100, right?
Man,
It was like $100.
We witnessed you getting beat, and it was like, oh, we made a big mistake ratting on him. Like, he was like, no. Why did we say anything? This is not what we wanted.
But
I will never forgive Nintendo for that, ever.
I guess this is where it's coming from, right? Like, the watermark for forgiveness is so high that having to pay double for a video game pales in comparison to getting beat by your mother.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh man. All right. Well, that's aside from the stuff in regards to emulation. Like, the real cool thing here is that these video games source code being out there, like, they found some really neat stuff.
Yes.
Like in Mario 64, like, apparently Luigi's in there, and they had
That was pretty cool to see.
They had to recreate him because it was like just assets of Luigi. It wasn't quite Luigi put together.
Yeah, it's like let's take Mario's arm in here and then stick Yoshi's tail.
Like, here's.
I'm exaggerating. But you get what I'm saying.
Here's clearly Luigi's hat, and here's clearly Luigi's oval head, and here's this arm over here, and here's this and that. It's just been really cool to see that happen. Even apparently, like, Mario's little motion that he does when he grabbed the star in Mario 64 was actually like a dance or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just cool to see. If anything, just for the novelty factor of it.
If the rumors are true and a Mario collection comes out for the Switch this year, and they do like a Mario 64 HD, I'm throwing my money at that. My $500 that I have reserved for a console, that's out the window. I'm just gonna have to wait till next year to buy a freaking console. Stupid Nintendo, I'm telling you, dude.
I'm excited.
Only $90 though, Josh.
I'm excited for that though. Like, if
By the way, this.
I have to sell myself.
Oh, this console generation will be the first console generation where I ever buy day one.
Nice.
Console.
Ooh, nice,
because I'm looking forward to that much, and like I can't wait. I know that, like, there was a part of me that was, I mean, you guys know me and I love to complain. So, like, there was a part of me that really had serious doubts about why in the world am I buying an Xbox Series X. I had no clue. I didn't think that I would, but I knew that I would. But I always thought, like, not a day one.
Oh wow, I'm surprised, AJ. To be honest with you.
Well, I got to tell you, but the game, as much as I complain about, like, the show and everything that was sort of shown, and as much as I sort of ended up disliking what I saw from Halo, at the end of the day, it wasn't just about Halo. It was about everything else, and it's essentially about the promise of what's to come. And there's finally, in my mind, a ray of hope, and that's exactly why I'm purchasing it. It's that ray of hope of what I finally see Xbox doing again, which is essentially focusing on the games, not necessarily focusing on always the games that I prefer or love, but really focusing on a diverse set of games that I'm like, hey, I could play that. Hey, I could play that one. I might be interested in that one. And enough of those where I'm like, okay, there are options, rather than feeling like, okay, I bought the Xbox One essentially to play Gears of War 4 and wait for Gears of War 5. Kind
of like what Nintendo was back in the day, in the golden age of Nintendo. I'm assuming like Nintendo 64.
I don't know,
I
man.
because
I had a
I
huge
believe
Nintendo 64 library.
that's what I'm saying. Nintendo 64, I think, was the
Oh,
golden
that's what
age
you
of
mean. I
of
thought you meant
yeah,
like
yeah.
Nintendo was the hey, I'm only buying it for one thing. But yeah, you mean the other thing. You
Well,
mean
no,
there's a
I'm talking
variety
about it's
there.
like
Yeah.
exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, you want to play GoldenEye? There's GoldenEye. You want to play a racing game? Here's Mario 64, or even Cruising USA, or whatever. All
What,
these awesome games that were there that was available during the 64 era.
do you guys play just because of like the nostalgia and because it's fun?
Well, the second part
I
of your question is actually very important, Joseph.
I think it
It's
was because it
fun.
was fun, dude.
If
Like
the games are
Snowboard Kids,
fun, yeah.
was it 1 and 2? That was really fun.
Is it
What
fun to play
Wave
alone
Racer
or in a
64?
group?
It was fun to play alone and in a group, dude. Like I played oh my god, what's that rare game? Oh my god,
GoldenEye.
Describe
you
it.
play as no. You play as these two kids in outer space. Jet Force Gemini. Oh
Oh,
my god, dude.
Oh.
yeah.
I played that game,
Is
the campaign by
I have two.
myself. Go ahead, AJ.
Oh no, yeah. Well, I have two questions. First question is Mike Tyson's Punch Out available on the Switch?
I think so.
I think so. Actually, I have my Switch here. Let me turn it on.
I think it is.
Oh man,
I think it
that's the
is.
one of the games that I like. It's both nostalgia and the fact that I tried to play a sim online. It's just the experience was not the same.
Yeah.
Like
The
you
issue
know,
with
like,
emulation is they can't quite nail the frames, so the gameplay feels either stuttery or it just doesn't feel like your input is landing right.
the inputs
Yeah.
exactly, and not just the
Mike
inputs, but
Tyson's
even just
Punch Out.
sort of the controller. Yeah.
Okay, so Donkey Kong Country, not too much Championship Wrestling,
I think
Star
it's on
Fox
Man,
Feud,
SNES. Don't look at the
Super
SNES.
Super Punch Out. Oh, you're talking about Mike Tyson. Okay, let me look at the
You
NES
gotta
one.
go
Sorry.
NES for that, yeah. Not the
Yeah.
SNES Virtual Console.
Yep.
All
Let me
right, so
go
that was
to my
question number one.
library.
Well, we'll wait while Joshua looks that up. But question number two would be, does anyone want to play Street Fighter 2?
Nintendo. Yeah, I would. I'd
Oh
kick your
boy.
ass in that game, dude.
An infamously bad fighting game.
Same here.
Oh
Dude, Street Fighter 2
man.
was the best uh, Street Fighter out of all the Street Fighters, to be honest.
Yeah, it was.
I think that the way that community moved from baseline Street Fighter to and that being it to the Street Fighter 4 release on the 360, that was cool to watch at the time. Even as someone who doesn't like
Street
fighting
Fighter
games,
4?
yeah, like
Oh no, yeah, Street Fighter
the way
4.
that Street Fighter 4 rallied fighting games fans, that was really cool to watch from a distance as someone who just doesn't interact with that. But
Was Street
Darren,
Fighter 4 the one that had that famous video where the guy blocks like every
no,
punch from Chun?
no,
No.
no.
no,
Which one was
that's
that one? Was that Street
Alpha.
Fighter
Street Fighter, that's for Alpha.
Yeah. Oh, that I love
Alpha
that clip
3?
so much. Every time I watch it, I get so hyped, and I'm like, I'm gonna play video games.
Yeah,
'Cause
that was
it's just
really
like
cool.
that is the moment that you want in every video game. It's like, okay, I have no life left, and like here come all the bad guys, and yet I'm sure. In fact, like that moment is something you live for, and also something you die with.
Yeah.
Like I remember, and I hope that at some point, like I hope Joseph will be able to find it, but like. Do you guys remember that time we were
PUBG.
playing
PUBG.
PUBG and
Yeah.
he went off on a tear?
Yeah.
Like just literally every single move he made was just perfect.
Yeah.
To this day, I remember it's like one of the most amazing things I ever saw. I was like,
It was like
wow.
11 players left, and Joseph managed to kill like 8 of them on his own.
Was this where we in the forest?
Yeah, in the forest.
We were
on
in the
that, on that
forest,
hill.
Oh yeah, and I was hiding behind a rock, right?
Yeah.
For, like
Yep.
the last three.
Like
Yeah,
you,
okay, I
you,
remember.
You basically out of the 11 people left, you accounted for like 8 of those kills, and you.
Yeah,
were
I don't
just,
know what was
that.
that.
Was insane, dude.
I
Oh,
was just
those
hyper focused
That
and
was
everything.
super
I thought
cool to
there were-
witness.
We were all silent and just sort of like being witnesses, you know.
We were all
And I
quiet
remember
until
like
the last death, and then it was
you-
just this elation. Just we exploded, man.
It was great because it was like yeah, you were outnumbered 3-1, and all three of them I think
Yeah.
were on the same
It was
side.
a whole
and
team
you're just,
too. It was a whole
Yeah.
team.
You know, and you're behind that rock, and I'm like, there's no way. It's like, it was a good attempt, and then like just seeing you like, I'm gonna move left, I'm gonna move right, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna duck, and it's like, oh my god, he's actually like he's doing a pretty good job of like holding his own, and then little by little, like seeing it, like, is it possible? Is it possible? Is it possible? It's happening!
It
Ah! It's like,
happened.
oh! And it happened. It is the best moment in gaming.
That reminds me, and not to get too much into this nostalgic trip here, but I still remember uh, playing Trials of Osiris with Jonathan and Sam Smegman, who's not here.
That was pretty
Uh,
fun.
Jonathan, when you literally were the last one alive, and you were not even tripping, and you literally told us, check this out, and then you started humming the theme to Doom, and you just went with your shotgun and you just dodged everything they threw at you, supers, grenades, rockets, and you killed all three
I
of them with
believe
your
it.
shotgun. That was just holy smokes, man. And the fact that you said, check this out,
Right before going in.
right before like he called it. It was Joe Namath's I guarantee it. You know, like
Um,
it was just man,
I
that's
Mike
remember that
Tyson's
day, dude.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out is, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's not
No
on
worries.
the
oh,
Nintendo
it's not. Okay.
online library.
All right.
Ah.
Punch Out is though on the Super Nintendo.
Is Mike Tyson's Punch Out one of the games that got leaked?
It probably did. It
No,
probably did.
I
Uh,
don't know.
It was a very very extensive library. But
I'm sure
anyway,
you'll find that on the internet.
well he already said that he's tried, and the problem with emulation on those games, Joe, and any console really is you just the inputs don't quite feel quite right. Not
Give
to
it some
Yeah.
time.
not to
AJ, give it
admit
some
to a
time.
crime here, but I definitely at some point or another had Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, and 3 on a personal computer, and it just didn't run quite right.
Oh,
But anyway,
Sega.
yeah,
But I think we've come a long way
Sega.
with emulation.
we
We
absolutely
have.
have. Yeah. All
Come
right,
along
man.
with technology. We can talk to each other on the fly. You can be in China. I can be in Mexico. You could be in. I mean, it's nice.
Yeah,
We can all come back and
yeah. I
I
mean,
get through
still
these
can't.
fucking fucked up times.
the key is that all that stuff was proprietary hardware, right? Like the reason why consoles existed before is the reason was far more evident than it is today. Like those were very very custom pieces of hardware, and the software that was built to run on them. Like I heard, I still remember the story of like, what was it? How Crash Bandicoot like broke PlayStation. Like the PlayStation
Really?
One's architecture was like jimmied open or something, like art, like software wise for Crash
The
Bandicoot
hell?
to run the way it does. You guys should look that up. That's a fascinating read. The developers Naughty Dog to make Crash Bandicoot 1 just basically made the PlayStation run in a way that was just not correct. um,
Every once in a while, I'm reminded that we live in the future.
yeah,
Like,
yes,
because
yes,
I bet, by the way, like so I started working with computers at a really young age. And in fact, Joshua's dad is the one that got me into computers. Like, I remember he brought a computer home one day, and it's like, hey, check this out. We're gonna connect on like via the internet, which wasn't even really called the internet. I think I don't even remember what it was called.
it was the
And
web,
it's
right?
like,
Like the web
I think
is
it
the
was like,
word that I heard first
yeah.
before internet.
No, this is even before the web, dude. This is like it was like it's sort of like in the days where the people were calling it America Online, but not even before that. This is like a different version of America Online where it's
Yeah.
like that the name of the service is the name of the whole thing. And I just remember Joshua's dad being so super excited. And I was like, and anything, and I think Joshua knows this, but especially back then, like anything that Joshua's dad would get excited about, it's like I'm gonna get excited about that. So he was
Nice.
so excited about computers, and it's like I remember back then, it's like literally just texting to another stranger was just incredible. Like, oh my God, this is amazing! And you have these blocky text, and like and the speed of it
It
is
was
so.
green
It was like
screen, man.
this was 14.4 kilobits per
Oh,
second,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this, and that was fast. It
Yeah.
was like, you know, and like literally now it's like I have 400 megabit per second download speeds
Yeah.
and I can talk to people and see their faces online and like have these long meetings or whatever. It's like we live in the future. It's amazing, and like never forget that, man.
Yeah. Don't take it for granted. We aside from the fact that those of us in this podcast live in the United States, the quote unquote penthouse of the world. It's important to always
We're
remember.
free.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, that's a whole other topic, but I think it's important to remember that we have it really good, and like AJ said, technology-wise, we are so enabled to do so many good things with this tech, and we shouldn't forget it. It should always be at the forefront of our minds as far as what we have at our disposal and what tools we have to facilitate our actions.
Mhm.
So
Well, guys,
yeah,
that is
this
a great note to end on, I think.
it is.
Yeah.
We've run
Yes,
all
sir.
out of news and we've run all out of time. And yeah, we'll call it a night there. You guys have a good one. Everybody, we'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Good night,
Everyone,
everybody.
Thank you.
sign out.
Him.
Good night.